worked remote for a long time. And when I started my company, we were actually in debt. So we really built this agency up from the ground up with no budgets. So
See,
I feel
that's
connected.
awesome. So you get it. Like a lot of my audience are exactly that. They live remotely, have zero ad spend, so it's all about the conversations. So what is it with personal brands then that people are struggling with? How are they not getting that?
So the thing is, you want people to come to you for because they know that they can trust you, because they know that if they come to you, you're going to solve their problem, whatever it is. A personal brand is a little bit like your reputation in high school. Like if everybody knows, like, oh, that's the guy who does jiu-jitsu. Let's not try to mess with him too much. Let's not pick a fight with him. But at the same time, if one of your friends is being beaten up with the first guy they're gonna call, the guy who's doing jiu-jitsu, hey, Stapho, okay, come help us. This guy is your friend's getting beat up, right? So personal brand is about making sure that the right people who should know you get to know you. And it's a lot of personal branding happens in social media these days. And what makes it that difficult is that um, post they just stay in there, they go in the feed, and a couple of thousand people see it, and then they forget about you. Or also maybe the people that you have in your LinkedIn connections, which might be your colleagues or your ex-colleagues or maybe some people from high school, they're not the people that need to know you, right? And you might not even be talking about the right things. So the hard thing is structuring it and systemizing it in a way so that you're continuously attracting the right people by giving them the correct, like, let's say, yummy content, but also making sure that you get to connect with them upfront, maybe one-on-one. Maybe you can use automation for this. But that is the challenge I see. It's like everybody, they've been listening to Gary Vaynerchuk. They understand they got to hustle, they got to put out content. But how do you do that? Well, how do you take a structured approach? How do you make it so that you're not waking up, going on social media, posting all day, and then going back to sleep, and in the end of the month you check your bank account and there's no money in there? Like structuring it, being consistent, making it sure there's the ROI, and just like that is what I think is the biggest difficulty for most people.
When it comes to building that personal brand, um, I keep hearing from people that it feels fake, like they're creating a persona, or it's not really them, or who they are when they're doing this kind of work is not who you're going to meet at a barbecue, right? How do you respond to something like that?
It's a really good question, and I do have an answer about this. So in my opinion, the personal brands is an extension of who you are, but that requires a little bit more like context because that's kind of like a useless slogan. But really, first of all, your personality, there's many parts of it, right? Like there's different parts of the brains, and you have how you act in different kind of situations, and yeah, you get very excited about something, and you get not so excited about other stuff, and maybe right now, let's say for me, right? So my personal brand is about helping people generate B2B leads. That's really the main thing. But right now, what I've been thinking about today is about this video game I've been playing, the God of War, right? So sharing B2B stuff, you could say it's not that authentic, but I wouldn't say so. Personal branding, if you do it strategically, is you take the parts of yourself that are real and that you're an expert in and that you're knowledgeable about and that you care about, and you find a way to structure it correctly and systematically and consistently to match the stuff that your potential clients need to know, right? So it's not about creating a fake persona that matches what your target audience wants. It's about where does my personality and my expertise overlap with what my target audience needs to know, and what is in that sweet spot in between that you can amplify and put out there on a larger scale, right? So it's not about let's say it's not about coming up with something new because you're like, oh, that's gonna bring the people. I don't know if anybody of your audience is like an MMA fan or whatever, but you don't have to be Conor McGregor and talk shit all the time just because you know that will bring in the eyeballs and attention. no, there is something already interesting about you. There is something that you already have usually that is of value that should just be amplified. And you pick the parts that also match the needs in the market.
Exactly. So what you're doing is it's like you're pulling into focus the the parts of who you are that play well or that support properly your service. Like you said, you could be a complete gamer on the side, but that doesn't really need to factor into your brand in B2B sales, maybe. But I guess so. Then the takeaway is you could have multiple personal brands depending on your audience and your channel and your outreach, right? Because it's different areas of you that you're pulling into focus for perhaps a different project.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. That would be correct. But at the same time, there is so much effort that goes into building a personal brand,
Mm-hmm.
and there's so like there's such a scarcity in terms of attention that ideally you want to pick your message and
Yeah.
just hammer that same message over time to
Mm-hmm.
the same people, and when those people really start caring about you, then you can like become a little bit more broad, let's say. But in the beginning, let's say the first year, I would really choose one audience and
Mm-hmm.
choose one message and just
Yeah.
keep keep repeating that one.
Yeah.
Not that you couldn't do it. It's just that that's going to be like the biggest bang for your buck
Mm-hmm.
because they're incremental efforts that have exponential results because every time you activate one little switch in their head, it's going to activate other stuff as well within themselves, but also with them communicating with our people, and just keep hitting those switches. It's going to do. It's just going to be more than linear results. It's truly going to be exponential.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's take a couple of minutes. I'd like to hear more of your story. Like, how do you go from jiu-jitsu into creating marketing family?
That's a really funny question. That's a really interesting question. So before I dropped out of college uh, to go train jiu-jitsu full time in Stockholm, Sweden. So I am from Belgium. So for the people who don't know, that's really on the other side of Europe. It's very far away. And I went there and I lived in the gym, slept on the mats for a while. Was competing all over the world. Fought in everywhere in Europe. Fought in LA, all those kind of places. But at some day I figured, actually what I'm just doing is it's good for me. Like I'm developing my sense in the sense that I'm create gaining better skill and my mindset is improving and all this kind of stuff, but the actual physical output of what I'm doing is just me choking my friends, and it's my friends choking me, and ultimately I had this moment where I was like, what is the actual value I'm bringing into the market, is how I'd say now, but then I would say what value am I bringing into the universe. So I had no money. I had to move back to Belgium, uh, live with my mom again, and I figured, look, I know, let's say I'm a pretty smart guy, and I can work hard. So I should use that to bring value into the market. And I was starting to think like, what is the stuff that is important for me? So one of the things that was important to me in the beginning was that I wouldn't be pretty much location independent. So I could go wherever I want to go. That was very important to me. And
Mm-hmm.
also I wanted to work with my natural strengths, which are systems and analyzing stuff, as well as psychology. Those are things that I'm naturally
Attracted to. Yeah.
attracted to. That would be a good way of saying. So that's how I just started with the marketing family. What I did was I read a marketing book and then I shared online the stuff that I learned, and then I made a group for people that wanted to hear the stuff I learned about marketing. And then over time, people just, it was really funny because I just read a book and then I put it out there, and then people started seeing me as an expert, and I was like totally open about it, like, yo, I'm just getting this from this book. But then it accumulates, and people start seeing you as an expert, and they start like, hey, can you help me with this or this or that? And over time, like it starts to turn into something that actually can drive revenue and attract customers, and attract those people that you can actually help. That's what started happening. At some point, it was like, yo, I can't do this by myself. So then I moved to Bulgaria, where I'm now, and I built my agency. We're 4 people full time, and then there's like 15-ish people externally that help us as well. But that all just comes from me wanting to add value to the market, figuring out how I can help myself with just reading, sharing what I've learned, and that just turned into this crazy roller coaster.
I mean, what a
Yeah.
fantastic, uh, content idea, point of connection, way to start discussions, engaging discussions on LinkedIn is to be sharing what you're reading. Especially if you're the kind of person who does that a lot. I know that there's a lot of people, I've met them on LinkedIn who do a ton of reading, but they're not as they don't share it as often. So it's a really great
Yeah.
suggestion.
Yeah. And when you, if you go this route, you got to be sensitive to how your own brain works. For example, me personally, I'm a pretty good synthesizer, so I can take lots of information and condense it into very little words. So that plays really well into LinkedIn video and LinkedIn short form content. But somebody else, they might want to think things through a little bit more, and well, not that I don't think things through, but they want to be more elaborate and more specific in their language.
Yeah, totally long form.
Then they could go for the articles or podcasts or whatever, and then they can still use the short form to get that out there. But just don't do what the next guy is doing because it works for them. Pay attention to how you like to both consume and produce
Mm-hmm.
content, and use that. Don't just be like, oh, he makes this one line post, let's do that. It's not, just follow what's your natural strength.
Fantastic. Well, tell you what, let's wrap up with maybe a couple of suggestions. So you run a social media agency, so you're always
Mm-hmm.
thinking about engaging maybe short form content, right, for a lot of your clients.
Mm-hmm.
So for the kind of audience that we're talking about here, so remote, no budget, and looking to add a lot of value, and especially if they are refining their personal brand, what might be one place that you would recommend people to start? I mean, apart from this great idea of maybe synthesizing what you're reading, what might be another um, idea these kinds of people could do to create engagement?
So I'm gonna answer your question, but I'm gonna spin it around a little bit because over the last 2 weeks I've been doing some experimentation, and I haven't talked about my results anywhere, and I think this is going to be a really good premiere for your audience.
Oh, cool.
So I came up with a new kind of like method of, it's not new, nothing's new, but something that's new for me. And I've created a new way of posting or new way of writing, and I think people should do this when they're at home. I've been writing posts that starts with a really specific and crazy results that I've either created for myself or for my clients. Very important is that it's just a one line hook that just shows exactly what I've done. You can go to my posts, and one of my posts you'll see is how for one of my clients in 1 month time with 157,000 views on his LinkedIn profile content. So that is a crazy amount to do in 1 month for like a first month post. Like nobody does this. So I start with the crazy results. Then the next step is I explain why it's so crazy. Then I will say, okay, but look, this is how I've actually done it. So I'll give them 3 to 4 or 5 steps, so that you're not only you're bragging in the beginning, but people you dangle the result that they want in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
Then you say, look, this is actually a really crazy result. And then I'm like, look, this is how I've done it. And then you link it back to your own service, and you add something of scarcity over there. So it's like, look, I got this amount of views from my clients. It's really crazy because the average is this. We've taken these 5 steps that you can just take at home if you want. But it just so happens magically, I actually have one opening for one client this week or this month or whatever. So if you want this crazy result for yourself, you can just reach out to me over the DM. And this template has gotten me in 10 days, it got me 8 discovery calls from those posts. But out of those 8, 7 have turned into proposals. So the ratio there is pretty crazy. And that is something that I think people should take home, is to work on how can you take a tiny piece of your results, because it doesn't matter if the whole project was a success or not, but just one detail that is really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Put it out there in the world, explain to the people why it's crazy, and then show them how to do it, and then give them some kind of call to action to reach out to you. And this has been phenomenal for me, and I'm now rolling it out for all my clients across the board. So that's something I would want people to take home.
It's brilliant. I mean, it's not even like a hack. You're not really even cheating. You're leading with the results, helping people see how it's possible, and then
Mm-hmm.
helping them get to you. And like you said, especially if you're an individual running their own business, it's not totally a scarcity thing. It's you literally only have, a set period of time available. So like each week. So
There's many ways to add the scarcity there,
yeah.
but really the point is you got to give people urgency to act now,
Mm-hmm.
because
And not put it
out
off.
of those people that messaged me, a bunch of them said, oh, I guess it's finally time to reach out to you. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, look at them, we've been connected for a year and a half. Like, why are you reaching out to me now? Because I told you I have an opening. Like, do you really think I didn't have any openings over the last 1.5 years? Of course I had openings, but it's just because I'm like, yo, now is the time that people will act, and it's so important to answer your work.
So you have a huge focus in the B2B space. Does that mean you live a lot on LinkedIn, or have you also built up other communities on other networks like Facebook?
So I have my own Facebook group, which is like 2,500 members, which is where in the beginning most of my clients came from, as well as people that I've sold courses to and coaching. I've actually also have the biggest Facebook group for videographers in Belgium. I've also made that one. We've run a lot of different kind of Instagram accounts, especially when automation was still more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So we've done Reddit as well. So we've really played with a lot of different platforms, but my main platform is definitely LinkedIn, and I can tell you why, because you might think this is funny. The reason I like LinkedIn is, first of all, there was a huge opening because the platform was exploding right when I got into it.
Mm-hmm.
I got really good mentors there, but the real reason is that I feel like LinkedIn is a little bit like Tinder, like
Okay.
you're there and you can pretend like you just want to be friends, but ultimately everybody knows why you're there. And I think LinkedIn is the same as Tinder. It's like everybody knows you're there to do business. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about it. It's not necessarily a high intense platform. Like you don't necessarily go there to achieve a specific goal, but you are there with the knowledge and the awareness that there's some business going to be happening there. And that's
At
what I
some
like about
point,
it.
and it's a great network because it has that purpose, as opposed to Facebook, where it's kind of all over the place. Nobody really knows why you're there. And that's one of the reasons why having a bio like yours, which is, part hilarious, part awesome, people don't quite expect that because, this is a business network. And then you show up with a little bit of humor, a little bit of humanity. It's like, oh, this is unique. On Facebook, everybody's doing everything every different way. So it's harder maybe to stand out. So Stapho, that was awesome. A lot of value that we just covered. So what I'll do in the show notes is I'll include a link to the Facebook group, invite people to
Yes,
join you
please.
there, and also your LinkedIn profile. So this was awesome. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed being here. And anybody that needs some help or whatever, you can always reach out to me. And if it's just like something small that you're struggling with, I'll totally help you for free. So don't be afraid to reach out to me. I'm always doing my very best to help whoever I can. So it's been awesome being here, and everybody's welcome to reach out to me if they need any help.